आशे सदानन्दमयो गुरुः उदेतु सततं सम्यक् अज्ञानतिमिरारुणः. Hari Om Tats. Jai Guru. We shall have the chorus recitation 3 times of Omkara. Interlock your fingers, put them on your lap, sit comfortably erect, close your eyes, open the mouth and heart and join me. The first chapter of Bhagavad Gita is called Vishada Yoga. I would like you to understand the meaning of the word yoga. Normally people understand yoga asana, yoga mudras, etc., etc., pranayama and all that. But the word yoga does not mean that. Yujyate anena iti yoga. It is a process by which one thing is united with the other. What do you mean by united with the other? If X is united with Y, then Y alone should remain. There cannot be any X there. So two items join together to become one, and one alone will be there. If there are two distinct entities, they cannot be united at all. So what we are trying to unite in reality are not two different components or two different factors. Actually there is only one, and that one is appearing to be two or many. So the appearance is clearly identified. So the appearential effect goes away and the real effect alone remains. Is the idea clear to you? Say an object is reflected in a mirror. An object is reflected in a mirror. The object remains here. Here is the mirror. And the mirror is reflected at an equal distance behind. Suppose you have hung a mirror on the wall. You stand 5 feet distance. There is a reflection of yours 5 feet behind. That means there is a reflection behind the wall. Suppose somebody walks, will he hit at the reflection? So where is the reflection then? Again, is there any reflection different from the object? Actually there is only one object, but the object is reflected. So a reflectional object also is seen. Actually, are they two or only one? In the same manner you will find that all the things that are taking place within your body, in the sphere of the mind, in the sphere of the consciousness, actually consciousness alone is there. All the rest is a kind of an illusory formations or creations of consciousness. I think I will stop here. I want you to come along with me understanding the concept. Inside your body, how many things can be there? Can there be an elephant? Can there be a horse? Will there be a sun and moon? So inside your body, throughout your life, there is only one factor present, that is the power of animation, sentience, consciousness. It is this consciousness that gives rise to all the objects. Whenever you see objects, and all the mental and intellectual modifications in the form of thoughts, feelings, emotions, memory, inquiry, knowledge, etc. Are they all different products which are within your body? They are not different products. At the same time, multiple functions are taking place. Multiple entities also are supposed to be there. But are they there as many, or altogether there is only one? This reality, when you know, all the reflectional products get merged into the source, and you understand there is only one. This is meant by yoga. Once you understand it properly, there cannot be any yoga outside the body. There cannot be any yoga. Yoga is possible only with regard to internal objects, internal entities. We say we are thinking. As a result of thinking, we have thoughts. In order to think, there is a thinker also within us. Now we are thinking about three products here: thinker, thinking, and thought. Actually, are there three like this? So yoga is a spiritual understanding, a process of understanding, as a result of which you get into the source level inside your body and understand where this objectude is altogether formed. So the source of all objectude, object phenomena, is inside. And inside you have only one substance or one presence, that is consciousness. So the same consciousness becomes many, illusorily, not really. Whenever you blend two objects, quantitatively will there not be a difference? Such differences, are they there inside? Suppose we have many thoughts. Is there any physical increase within our body? You see one elephant and 10 elephants, 15 elephants. You see one star and 1,000 stars. Is there anything in the way of an aggregate formation within the body? This is meant by yoga. Now, Vishada Yoga is so called because who produces this Vishada? Our mind. When the mind produces Vishada, grief, is there any grief product produced by the mind? It is an important question. Very important question. When our mind undergoes so many different moods and plights, are these moods and plights differentially and multiply present inside, or altogether there is only one mind? When you understand this truth, the Vishada disappears, the grief disappears. How is it the grief which made Arjuna speak so much? After hearing 64 letters from Krishna, suddenly all the grief stopped instantly and he became a questioner. So the intelligence took over. So the Vishada disappeared. So it is transforming Vishada into yoga. Any instance, physical or non-physical, you can transform it into a yoga factor to achieve yoga. In the first chapter it is Vishada of Arjuna, which has been given such a treatment that the Vishada becomes a yogic practice. Is it clear? No. So Krishna is making Vishada itself as a point of introspection. He says, Ashocyananvashocastvam. You are grieving over those people who should not be grieved at. So when this truth is understood, Bhishma and Drona you are grieving over, they themselves don't grieve over, and they are actually come here apparently to help Duryodhana, but not to make him win the war. They are blessing, both of you are blessing you to win. They want you to fight and win, and they are ready to sacrifice their own bodies, and they will cooperate with you also in the matter. So where is the question of grieving over them? So about whom he grieved? The very same people are described and explained in such a manner that the cause of grief disappears and the mind becomes the normal mind. Is this not yoga? No. Please understand it. Every emotion is like that. A couple, married couple, they have lived for 3-4 years. Such a case came here recently. They married, they were very much loving each other, they married. And after 3-4 years they have found that it will not work. So the parents were proposing to me, what shall we do? You tell me very clearly whether your daughter will be happy with the husband or not. She says she will not be happy. Are you sure? Then what should be done? Very clear. What should be done? अरे इसमें सोचने का क्या है? The question is she going to be happy? She herself married him. She went on making adjustments for 3-4 years. At the end of 3 or 4 years, she finds that my adjustment is of no consequence at all. Neither will he be happy, nor I shall be happy. Then what is the natural decision, you tell me? इसमें कोई प्रश्न है क्या? Otherwise you marry, you have already married, live together happily. See, the problem itself disappears. The problem itself disappears. I tell the married people, you are not agreeable with each other, you cannot live together. Okay, live separately. Try for 1 or 2, 3 years, but don't hate each other. If you want to speak to each other, you speak. Otherwise, don't speak. Make adjustments. After 3-4 years, if you still feel your mind has grown and you can still live with each other, please live. But never think of divorce. Don't divorce. Whatever you will do after divorce, now also you can do. So keep quiet. You live in your own manner. Will any good man try to disturb another man? Any good man, would he like to be a source of disturbance to another? Will any woman like? So don't disturb your partner. You live separately and let us see. This they are not prepared to. Then they say, give me half. And what is meant by give me half? Arey, can you not? You are married and you are living together. Why don't you simply keep quiet? Half he may give, even 60% after some time. Why are you worried? See, when I suggest to them this noble, loyal way, people are so short-sighted, they are not prepared to accept it. I sometimes feel very bad. If X is married and he has lived with his wife, maybe he has a child, is it not a fact that he has a child in wife? Can he be adverse to it? He must respond to it at any point of time, whether they live together or not. There is no dispute about the matter. I think there is a very noble way of treating even the so-called divorces. Where is the question of fight? Where is the necessity to go to the court? It is a fact on which you work. So here, the armies were still there. Bhishma and Drona were still in front. But Arjuna's Vishada, grief, has disappeared and he has become a seeker of Shreyas. What? Arey Baba, what is this? A man who was grieving and grieving and grieving suddenly says, I am a seeker of Shreyas and give me instruction how to achieve it. So did not Vishada transform itself to a seeking note and it did not make Arjuna a seeker? Where has the Vishada disappeared now? Previously it was there in the mind. Now suddenly it has disappeared. So the Vishada has disappeared, leaving the mind to be itself. When Vishada was there, it was a second product. Now the second product has gone, mind alone is there, and good mind, it does its business. This is called yoga. So the Saankhya can take up any proposition like this and inquire into it and find out an answer. It is a pursuit of introspection. Your mind and intelligence are engrossed in introspection. You introspect over grief itself. When you start introspecting over grief, it won't be grief, it will not have that impact. The intelligence becomes so active that the mind becomes dormant. And the grief will be no more grief. It will be a point of inquiry and you will be elevated. The Saankhya is noted for probing into the mind and all the plights it undergoes and redress every one of them. Sri Krishna is presenting the singular truth of the Upanishads. The Upanishads have only one truth to present. Do you know what is that? The truth of the I, the truth of the self. First of all, it probes into the I. So there is a clear focus and locus there. I is something that everybody has, feels and expresses. It is that I the Upanishads probe into. By I you means who? Myself. So you refer to yourself also. So that I. That I is the focus of the Upanishadic discussion. Nothing else. Now Sri Krishna is making that itself the point of discussion. Ashocyananvashocastvam prajnavadamsya bhashase gatasoon agatasoomscha nanushochandi panditaha natvevaham jadunasam natvam neme janadhipaha nachaiva na bhavishyama sarve vayamatah param. If everybody was living, is living and will be living, can there be any birth or death? So birth and death are biological events and outcomes. What? They are not spiritual events. I want you to understand, absorb and assimilate this point. What is birth? Birth is of the body. And are you the body? No. Then what birth? Whose birth? And whose death? Body's death. Body is born, it is growing, it declines and finally it will die. So what is the wrong in getting born and also dying? Do you want no death to take place in this world? Then along with you, your great-grandfather's parents also will be living. Your 2 and 3 rooms will not be sufficient. The entire Bombay will have to be multiplied by 20 to accommodate all of them. Now you are all smiling. Is it a fact or not? So would you like your grandparents to live with you? So let us accept it. By accepting death, we are all not going to die. Death has its own order, its own relevance. So we should be understanding very clearly that death is a matter to be understood by us. What is dying? The body. And what is body? A biological product, a biological outcome. Our body has grown with matter. Mother's blood cells have been used as food and nourishment by the sperm and the ovum after their fertilization. And the whole structure of the body is developed by matter. The soul has not grown at all. It just remains there. So the birth is of the body, the death also is of the body. And in the body there are so many transformations which take place. Actually, what is birth itself? It is a transformation from the mother's womb to the open air. That itself is a transformation, physical replacement. And everybody, you will look at the child, he is not growing. So it is transformation. Every day it puts on weight, the limbs are increasing, physiognomical features are growing. So, dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tatha dehantara praptihi. Please understand this. You should grow with the statement. Dehinosmin. Dehinaha asmin dehe. In the I, you refer to something as I. That I, which is enlivening the body, which is embodied. In that body, kaumaram yauvanam jara. It becomes a kumara. Then middle-agedness. And later on, old age. Kaumaram yauvanam jara. Tatha, in the same manner, deha antara praptihi. All the transformations are within the body. Naturally, the last transformation will be leaving the body. What is the difference between the two? All are transformations. All the other transformations you like and accept. When the last transformation comes, why have a sense of revolt or disharmony? What is taking place? Dehantara prapti. If the soul wants a body to live, then this body has become old or damaged, so it goes to another body. Suppose you have rented a house and it has started leaking, what will you do? You will look for another flat. Here also it is the same. Anybody leaving the body at any age is going to get a new fresh body. So compared to the new body, the present one is already old, maybe 1 day old, even then. So there is nothing called death marking extinction. There is only a transition. So Sri Krishna is making out a case, what? Dhiras tatra na muhyadi. The wise man does not undergo delusion. The wise man does not undergo delusion. Are we having the right insight about death? Or are we having delusion about death? No answer. Where are you? I am asking you. Are we understanding and assessing death properly, or are we deluded about death? What is your definition of death? Oh, that person has gone. Oh, who has gone? That person who was living in the body, did you ever see him? He was with you for so many years in the body. Have you ever seen the other? Now when he has gone, what right do you have to say? Which he you are referring to as having gone? You saw only the body, and the body is even now there. Then whom do you say has gone? Have you seen somebody other than the body? Then why do you say he has gone? Suppose he lives for another 10 years, will you be able to find him? Then what is your word? Does it have any meaning? Now you can say, the body has become functionless. It is pranahina, it is devoid of life forces. When does the body die? You ask the doctors, they will give you the right definition. When the heart stops working, lungs stop breathing, maybe principal organs like liver, kidney and other things, they fail, then the body cannot function as a biological, functioning, viable aggregate. It is just like a bulb fusing. The bulb should not fuse. The body should not die. Give me the answer. Whether the body should die or not. Dhirastatra na muhyadi. The wise man is not deluded. He sees the death as a biological transition. It is only taking place in the bodily level, and whoever or whatever was living in the body, nothing has happened to it. That presence was there earlier. The same presence is now present, and now hereafter also it will be there. So understand that the entire life term that we have is a biological life term and not a spiritual life term. What? Can you grasp it and nod your head? We only have a biological existence. We only have our biological parents, biological children. We don't have a spiritual father, a spiritual mother, a spiritual child, nothing. Everything is biological and it's perfectly alright. So much so, by all these biological processes and jugglery, nobody is put to gain or loss. That is where you have to give credit to God. With all these confusions and many things taking place, nobody is put to lose or nobody is put to gain. All gains and losses are taking place in a pseudo manner, in an illusory manner. Suppose in the dream your neck is cut and you wake up. Tell me, the incident in dream, was it true, factual or not? In the same manner, the waking state instances are not true of the I. They are true of the body alone. Am I speaking nonsense or sense? Tell me if the mind and the intelligence are capable of thinking and reflecting in this manner. If you reflect, automatically the death will become a misnomer before you. Dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yavvanam jara tatha dehantara praptihi dhirastatra na muhyadi. For the dehi, for the embodied spirit, the soul, in the same body, how birth, childhood, adolescence, old age, all these are taking place. In the same manner, it leaves one body, goes to another body. You know what does it mean? If you believe that the same soul is there, then it leaves body and some other bodies will be born. That is the meaning. Tatha dehantara praptihi dhirastatra na muhyadi. So the wise man does not get deluded by the event of death, in whichever manner it comes and whenever it occurs. There is no destruction, there is no extinction, there is only transition in death. So that death is a transition. Say? Not an extinction. Birth is not an addition. This is the truth. Now, in explaining this proposition and making you understand, even say that this is so, tell me what is the process I adopted? I adopted the process of what? Rational reflection. What? Rational reflection over the facts and phenomena the senses perceive. We don't deny the senses. Whatever the senses are perceiving, those data we collect, and on the basis of the data we start reflecting, ruminating, introspecting, until at last these data cease to have their influence on our mind. Cease to have their influence on the mind. I was told that there was a Japanese captain, military man, maybe somebody even above him. He had about 200 people following him. On their way they found a canal. They are not able to cross it. He told him, I would like to have some 50, 60 dead bodies for me. Are you following me? I want to have 50, 60 dead bodies for me so that I can heap them and walk over. 50, 60 people of the group simply jumped into the water and died. And he stacked the bodies and they walked over the other side of the canal they reached. You tell me what the mind cannot do. Do you believe what I say? Japanese army is said to be very disciplined and very national. A call from the leader simply was heard. We had a king in Cochin called Shaktan Tamburan, who had such a power, commanding power. Whenever I address a large group of people for sensational purposes, people were saying, Swamiji, your talk is very inciting. I said, what do you mean by inciting? I never ask people to do anything wrong. The word inciting does not mean that. After your talk, whatever you ask your listeners to do, they will do. This is called inciting, he said. We can enthuse people to such an extent. This body will become nothing when there is an occasion. Can you imagine these Jawans of Japan simply jumping into the water? What was that ship in the Second World War which was through the exhaust pipe they dropped a bomb? Victoria. There was a ship Victoria by name. I said, no. They came along with a bomb and got into the tube. Churchill was shaken by that. There is also something very interesting. When this happened, the military chief was going up and down. Churchill was sleeping on the first floor. He went up. Can I wake him up? Came down. Again, no, should I not inform him? Finally, he woke up and told Churchill. Then he said, what difference would it have made if you told me this next morning? This is what Churchill said. The ship has sunk. What will he do? He will think of remedial measures. It cannot be suddenly. It is part of the offense that the enemies have launched. Now we will have to think about. It's not so easy. We will find out. So, dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tatha dehantara praptihi dhirastatra na muhyadi. I have to tell you something. I have said it many times, but I cannot stop saying. See, all our religious practices are bodily and sensory and oral. All our religious practices are prayers, physical demonstrations, oral chanting, taking materials, taking them, pouring, giving. They are all physical, material and oral. But in the Saankhya process, there is nothing like that. All these are replaced by mento-intellectual pursuit. Do you understand it? Huh? What am I doing? I am discussing a verse of Bhagavad Gita, spending minutes and minutes and minutes. And I am only speaking to you. And the basis of my speech is some concepts. I am trying to discuss death. D-E-A-T-H. None of us has died. And death is not before us. So we are discussing it as a concept, as a notion. And that notion is made a subject of discussion. Means what? Our intelligence is applied. It is probing into the concept, probing your own mind, and trying to say, in death there is no destruction. It is only a transition. The word is transition, destruction, death. All these are words and concepts. Using these concepts, we evolve a kind of a reasoning, a kind of an analysis. In this analysis process, you understand your own mind, your own intelligence are involved in this. To the extent that Swamiji speaks, you are listening, so your ears are employed. You also look at the gesticulations he presents before you. This is all. Will you understand that? As a practice, as a pursuit, as an abhyasa, this is far more effective than religio-devotional practices. I don't think you. Will you give more value to religious practice and far less to this? Or this is a practice which should be regarded as far more effective and fruitful than the other practices. But do you believe so? Arjuna never did it in his life. Foregoing sleep, he did penance for Pashuvadastra. But he never did this kind of an austerity or discipline. First time Krishna puts him to that. And altogether the engagement was for about 2.5 hours. Arjuna had no time to chant the name of God, to do any puja, or to do any austerity. He was only looking at Krishna's body and listening to his words. That's all. And in the whole interaction, Arjuna was put into a state or a duration of sadhana which worked on the delusions of the mind, doubts of the intelligence. Everything was cleared, and he said, I take back my bow and arrow, fight a score of Mahabharata wars. This is called the Saankhya process. In Saankhya, you can employ the mind and the intelligence any number of times. You go on reading this verse, thinking, until at last it becomes clear to you, death is only a transition. There is no extinction in death. Death is only a biological event or outcome, and it is caused by the body and bodily parts. It does not touch the least the presence, the subtle presence within the body, which is sentient, and the sentience can never be acted upon by any of material and energial factors. This is Gita, my dear souls. This is Gita. When we are singing Achedyo yamadahyoyam akledyo ashoshya evaja nitya sarvagadasthanu achaloyam sanadanaha. When we chant it, we say no weapons can hit it. No weapons can, no water can wet it, no wind can dry it, no fire can burn it. These are the only 4 affectations the world can provide for us. Why don't you understand? The access to this is only this discourse. Either you hear it or you do it yourself in your mind. Sri Krishna presents Kathopanishad first. Krishna himself was a scholar. He had enough of erudition. And he was not speaking off his head. He was speaking very cogently, adhering to what our scriptures revealed. Now he has disposed of what? There is no death. 4.5 million warriors were present, and until all of them dead, there was no opponent on the opposite side, the war would not stop. So Arjuna is out to commence a battle in which 4.5 million warriors were to be slaughtered. Everybody will have to fall dead. If one person is surviving on the opposite camp, he also will have to be murdered. In such a situation, can you imagine the grief of Arjuna, thinking that I am the cause of it, I will be guilty? It is such a great grief, huge grief, that Sri Krishna was treating by the power of the words of wisdom he presented before him. So you tell me, which is more powerful? Only words he uttered. He targeted the mind of Arjuna, targeted the intelligence, used the tool of intelligence, targeted the mind, and the mind simply shed all the fear, doubt and delusion it had. Everything was gone. Krishna did not touch Arjuna. No intravenous injection was given. He only spoke to him. That's all. Is there anybody in this assembly who can understand and value the message of a spiritual tuition, the effect of a tuition? This is why you hold the Guru in great esteem. He brings the transformation in the disciple, sitting in his own way, talking to him, and maybe something more little here and there. It's all a point of clarification, enlightenment, enthusement, empowerment, elevation, enlightenment. Nothing but just like a good sumptuous feast you have, and you start eating one article after the other, one item of food. Here also, so many qualities are presented to you through this communication. So Arjuna said, I will not raise any point of death at all. But life remains to be explained. Life. No more problem about dying or another person dying. But what about the stage till death? What is the formula that you have? Every day I am going to encounter a number of slaughters. My side and the opposite side, all of them will fall dead. And every incident is going to produce grief in my mind. Now what shall I do as a formula for life? The next point is that Matras Parshastu Kaunteya Shidoshna Sukhadukkadaha Agama Payinaha Anityaha Tan Tidikshasva Bharata. So from the physical level they have gone. Now they are targeting the mind. targeting the level of experience. Experience. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukhadukhadaha. Krishna gives a spiritual definition of life, the like of which I hope you cannot find anywhere. Life is matra sparsha. Sparsha means contact. Matra means by which you measure or decipher. We are saying that we are surrounded by a huge world. We are surrounded by a huge world. Does the world say I am huge? Huh? Has the earth spoken to you? What about water? What about air? What about fire? What about the space? How dare you say the world is huge? You dare say the world is huge only because of your eyes. We have 5 sensory organs by which we measure and categorize the world. These senses are on our body, and their perceptions is what categorize. In the matter of categorizing the world, you are not guided by the world at all. The world is inert. That it is inert is again your finding. Mobile and immobile creations both are there in the world is your assessment on the basis of your senses. Your senses are on your body and they were not made by the world. Your mother has done nothing. Father too has done nothing. External elements have no role to play in the formation or the growth of the fetus in the mother's womb. It's all an interplay of things within. So the sole creator of the senses is within the body, and it is these senses that assess the world. Because they are used to assess, they are called matras, to measure, to categorize. Now everything is a contact. Unless the objects of the world contact the senses, you cannot have any experience. The sound will have to come and touch the eardrum. The light rays will have to touch the cornea. The smell, it has to come inside the nose. And over the tongue you have to place the articles. The skin of course touches. So the entire world is an outcome of matra sparshas, senses and their contacts. These contacts of the senses, which depend upon the senses themselves, instantly shitoshna sukhadukhada. Like heat and cold, you understand, one is opposed to the other. Like that, sukha and dukkha, like heat and cold, instantly arise in the mind. We have no definition about sukha dukkhas except saying that one is opposed to the other. If sukha is lightness, dukkha is darkness. We cannot say anything more than that. They are internal experiences. Heat and cold are sensory experiences. Sukha dukkhas are internal, mental. And one is opposed to the other. Opposed to the other. Sukha can be converted into dukkha, and dukkha also can be converted into sukha. We have air conditioners. When the atmosphere is very hot, we switch it on. And even the hot air then becomes cold. So a dukkha will become sukha and a sukha will become dukkha. And these sukha dukkha dwells. They take place whenever there is a contact between the senses and the objects arises. This is the very nature of sense-object contact. But there are some qualities which make them sustainable. What is that? Agama-bhayinaha. They arise and subside, come and go. Therefore they are anityas, they are not permanent. You cannot have any sukha for long. You cannot have any dukkha for long. So they are short-living, they come and go. And therefore they are anityas, impermanent. Being so, knowing that this is so, simply develop a sense of tolerance in you, he says. Now your answer I want from you is that, are you prepared to develop this spiritual tolerance? Do you need it? How long will you take for it? Huh? See, the whole picture is explained before you. Sukha dukkha's are unavoidable. The moment senses come into contact with the objects, in the mind level, either it will be pleasant or it will be unpleasant. The unpleasantness or pleasantness have no locus as such. They will not remain ever so. You are hungry, you start eating. In about 15-20 minutes the stomach is full. Most delicious item is there. Can you eat again? What is the point? See, it can never be constant. Something that is not constant, why should you worry about? So they are there and it cannot be altered. In reality, they are necessary, otherwise you will not be able to live in this world. So you have to develop a spiritual forbearance towards the inevitable sukha dukkhas which result when the senses contact the objects. This is the explanation Krishna gives. Whether it is war here or ruling there, victory here or defeat here, it does not matter. You are going into descriptions of different activities and their results. I don't want to hear them. Right from the morning you wake up till you go to sleep, you are only allowing the senses to have contact with their objects. Tell me whether the interaction is a sense-object contact or not. Right from the morning till you go to sleep. Then whether you see your son, or whether you see your neighbor, or whether you are looking at an enemy, in what manner does it matter? It does not matter at all. There is only one thing throughout the wakefulness: contact between your senses and the objects of the world. Once they take place, sukha dukkhas are sure to result. But understand they come and go. They are impermanent, and therefore be a little tolerant. You can go further into it. These sukha dukkhas are alternates. Is there any definition about it? What is dukkha? Dukkha is not anything independent. It is the absence of sukha is dukkha. What? Absence of sukha is dukkha. Similarly, the absence of dukkha is sukha. Our mind can shift from dukkha to sukha and sukha to dukkha. Suppose you have sukha now, the mind is sure to shift. Where will it shift to? Dukkha. So if sukha is had only to be shifted from it to dukkha, is it worth having? Huh? If every time you encounter sukha, it is to be left and you have to court dukkha, do you think it is welcome? A sukha is sure to drive you to dukkha. And what about dukkha? It has come after sukha and it will lead you to sukha. So is it not welcome? Is it not welcome? Without dukkha you cannot have sukha. So dukkha is not dukkha. It is a clear warning that I am going to give you sukha. And what about the sukha? So dukkha leading sukha is no sukha, And sukha leading dukkha is no dukkha also. When you develop this attitude, both of them become weaker. They will have no locus standi at all. Why do you care it? A few moments you are miserable or unpleasant. A few moments you are pleasant. Are you interested in a few moments, or are you interested in a lasting or an enduring condition? That enduring condition can be this understanding and the resultant, what shall I say? And the resultant moderation and the resultant unaffectedness that you have towards sukha dukkha's. That is going to be enduring. Neither sukha nor dukkha will last. But this attitude will have a salutary effect in you of moderation and sublimity, which can linger very beautifully. So he says, Yam hina vyathayandyete purusham purusharshapha samadukha sukham dhiram somritattvaya kalpade. See, we are discussing moksha, which is a religious goal normally. Now, Krishna has brought that moksha to the forefront. And he says, this scene is going to deliver you. What? What did I say? This war scene is going to liberate you. You don't need anything else. Yam hina vyathayandyede purusham purusharshapha. Only two things are to be tolerated. What are they? Sukha and dukkha. They are the only resultant outcomes of all sense-object contacts altogether. You may contact anything, whether the eye contacts, nose contacts, ear, tongue, skin. When there is a sense-object contact, sukha and dukkha are the only resultants. So you have to evenize or moderate only these two. And they are constantly present in our life. So you don't have to go to a plain ground for walking. These sukha dukkhas are right from the morning till you go to bed are there. And you practice this moderation, uniformity, evenness, this sublimational process. So, yam hina vyathayandyete. These two, namely sukha dukkhas, whoever is not afflicted by it. Why should you be afflicted? You are not creating. You are not creating. The world creates it. Why should you worry about it? Are you not ashamed? Are you not a fool to say, I am unhappy, unhappy. I am unhappy. And are you not equally a fool to say, I am happy, I am happy? Are you happy? Are you unhappy? Or your senses and the objects join together and cause unhappiness and happiness? Why should you worry about them? Allow them to play their role. Our lungs are breathing, you don't complain. Heart is beating, you don't complain. Brain is sending in stimulus, you don't complain. Similarly, the senses produce sukha dukkhas. Why should you worry? They are meant only to do that. So let them do it. And sukha, we have found, is not particularly desirable. And dukkha is not especially undesirable. So you have understood that both have their place. One brings the other sends away the other. Both are playing a beautiful, mutual, panoramic display. In this way, the whole sukha dukkhas will become lighter and lighter and lighter, and you will end up with the placidity of the mind, a beautiful and an elevating moderation. Samadukha sukham dhiram. These are the words to be remembered. The wise man is one wherein sukha dukkhas become equal in his mind. I don't particularly prefer sukha, nor do I abhor dukkha. From the preference to sukha and prejudice to dukkha, you have to have the attitude of non-preference and non-prejudice. If these two are developed, I think you attain liberation. This is what the Saankhya says. See, it is analyzing life, describing life, and analyzing the Sukha Dukkha instances and then clearly proving that the Sukha is not pleasant, it is not adorable, nor is Dukkha hateable. Let your mind elevate itself to a position of accepting both, accepting both, accepting both. Whether you accept or not, they are inevitably there. So why don't you develop an attitude of acceptance? Yam hina vyathayantyede purusham purusharshabha samadukha sukham dhiram somratatvaya kalpate. It is only a transition, just like the other transitions which took place on the same body. Now here, the transition is such that it leaves this body. Other transitions were within the same body. Now it leaves. About that all of you will agree, one day we have to leave. Would you like to live for 110 years? Anybody here? Then? Now that point is over. Then what remains is life. And he analyzes life as sense-object contact, inevitably and indispensably bringing about Sukha Dukkha alternates which are fleeting. And they cannot be avoided because they are indispensable. So in the entire life, whatever may be your position, your relationship, your belongings, you can put any adjective that you want. All people individually are having only Sukha Dukkhas. Whether you have 2 children or 1 child or no child, you will have only Sukha and Dukkha. Whether you get a big salary or a small salary, you will have only Sukha Dukkhas. And these are not produced by the money that you have, these are produced by the senses which your body has. You have not put the senses in the body. Your body is living by itself, by its own laws and processes. So they are indispensably there. Now being so, what do you have to understand? Only learn to deal with the Sukha Dukkhas. The mastery of the life consists in only being able to deal with Sukha Dukkhas. Because Sukha Dukkhas are the only resultants of all your life interactions. And to deal with them, what is the formula? Do not prefer one and have a prejudice to the other. On the other hand, as you accept pleasantness, also accept unpleasantness. When the mind becomes even towards them, that samadukha sukhatva, that solves all problems. Is the idea clear to you now? See how this Saankhya has summarized the whole complex life. And it gives you only one formula. Samadukha sukham dhiram. Bas. And all the arguments, assessments are provided to make you know that you should not prefer to have sukha, nor should you have a prejudice to dukkha. Sukha drives you to dukkha, dukkha brings sukha for you. So your assessments are all wrong. So understand that they are inevitables and develop an attitude of harmony and evenness towards them. So the development, and in order to develop these, repeated Sukha Dukkhas will be a provocation, an inducement, a persuasion, a compulsion, an invitation and an occasion. Just see, the whole life becomes a sadhana. Now, Sri Krishna was an exponent. You always call him a god and keep quiet. That is our trouble. By calling Krishna God, we are all safe. See, he was explaining it like any other teacher will, taking the position of a teacher, treating Arjuna as a student. Now he presents a proposition quoting Tattvadarshis. What? Tattvadarshis. Tattvadarshis right from the beginning have said the difference between real and unreal. What? Nasato vidyate bhavo, nabhavo vidyate sadaha, ubhayorapi drishtondaha tu anayos tattvadarshibhihi. First time he is quoting Tattvadarshis. Hereafter some of the shlokas which he is quoting, which he is saying, they are all adaptations from Kathopanishad. So Krishna was well studied. I was writing on the 13th chapter. There at one point he says, Rishibhir bahudha gidam, chandobhir vividhaih pratak, brahmasutra padaishchaiva, hetumadbhir vinishchidaihi. This is a point, my dear Arjuna, on which Maharshis have sung variously. And Vedic meters also have dealt with it. Brahma Sutras also have dealt with it. About that subject I am talking to you. So I am raising a point. Brahma Sutras were composed by Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva wrote Mahabharata. So would Krishna have time to read Vyasadeva's Brahma Sutras? When did he write? Before Mahabharata writing or after? So how can Krishna say Brahma Sutra Padaishchaiva? So I am coming to the conclusion that Brahma Sutras were already present like the Vedas and the Upanishads. As Vedavyasa edited the Vedas, he also must have edited Brahma Sutras. Krishna is not referring to the Brahma Sutras composed by Vyasadeva, but Brahma Sutras as a literature prevailing, just like the Vedic Upanishads. So he is referring to all that. And he says, many sages have spoken in many different ways. What does it mean? Does it not clearly indicate how studious Krishna was to read, understand, discuss and debate upon whatever thought processes were current during his time? So here also he says, and I am making a cross reference, he has quoted Tattvadarshis. He says that Tattvadarshis have found out the distinction between asat and sat. Asat means the unreal and sat means the real. He says, Nasato vidyate bhavaha. The unreal can never have any existence or expression. What did I say? And he says, Nabhavo vidyate sadaha. The real will never cease to exist or express. Follow it very clearly. There are two concepts here, real and unreal. The unreal will never come to be, and the real will never go out of expression. What do you understand from this? These are two propositions. From there we have to draw a conclusion. What is the conclusion? Conclusion is that Sat alone will be there. And Asat will not be, and Sat will never cease to be. Therefore, what is the option here? There is no Asat at all, only Sat. If it is only Sat is there, the Sat will never change. But we are finding that our body, our senses and the world are changing. That changefulness goes to prove that they are Asat. If they are Asat, will they express? If they are Asat, will they ever come into expression? No. Because they are constantly expressed before us, I cannot dismiss them as Asat, but I cannot accept them and full credit as the Sat. So what is this rigmarole called the world existence and our own existence? See, what do you have to answer to this point? Real will never go out of expression, and unreal can never come into expression. If you apply this standard, what do you have to say? Real alone will be. But the world that is around you, the body that you have, are they exhibiting characteristics or notes of the real? Then what are they? Unreal. If they are unreal, do they have any ground to exist? But are they not existing and are we not feeling? So what is this? We are observing and experiencing. When we submit them to reason, we find they refuse to stand the test of reason and logic. So intellectually or intelligentially, we cannot accept the world as an expression. Sensorily, it is there. But when probed into, it has no ground to stand at all. This is what Tattvadarshis have said, he says. He doesn't say, I am saying it. This is the way our teachers talk. Samvedya varjidamanuttamamegamadhyam samvidpadam vigalanam kalayan mahatman hridyeva tishta kalanarihida kriyam tu kurvan agartrapadametya samodidashri kurvan agartrapadametya samodidashri. Hari, Hari, Hari. Oh